Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right. What if the reason your construction projects are over budget and behind schedule isn't the labor or the materials, but the software? Today on Dave Cooper Live, we're joined by someone who's not just building smarter tools for the industry, he's also building a community of veterans leading the charge in construction, tech, finance, and real estate. Adam Stark, CEO and co-founder of JetBuild, is here to share how his sleek end-to-end platform is revolutionizing project delivery. But beyond the tech, he's also the voice behind the Veterans Who Build Show, a podcast spotlighting the stories, transitions, and business impact of military service in the built environment. From high rises in New York City to the front lines of innovation, JetBuild and Veterans Who Build are reshaping what leadership and execution looks like in our industry. So whether you're a GC, a veteran, an investor, or an innovator, buckle up, because this one's about flying higher together. But before we get into any or all of this, we got to give a big shout out to some of our supporting members. Cobalt Creed services builders and developers, prefab home builders, and manufacturers, allowing them to achieve the highest levels of comfort, indoor air quality, and low energy costs with their HVAC systems installed for their projects and their customers. Their approach is simple. By using their proprietary small duct high velocity central heating and cooling system, learn more at cobaltcreed.com. And a few words from these supporting members, and we're going to get right into the show. Brought to you by Greatech, developers of the complete light gauge steel and wood framing software for Revit StruxSoft. Off-site, modular, or prefabricated, StruxSoft Framer turns Revit into a powerful manufacturing tool, automating every step of the DFMA process from design to final delivery. StruxSoft doesn't just work with Revit, it transforms it. Jumpstart your designs at StruxSoftSolutions.com. Halleck Ltd. has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the United States and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for off-site modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, halleckltd.com. All right. Again, thank you to all of our supporting members and all of the supporting members you see going across the bottom of the screen at the ticker there. We can't do any or all of this without them. We are keeping it live. We are keeping it real, and we are keeping it unedited. And we'd love your support as well. It's what keeps us going. So if you get value from this show, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to showcase your name on the screen below in our upcoming new website. Thanks, everybody. I'm Dave Cooper. Let's hop into the show. Let's bring Adam Stark on from JetBuild. Adam, how are you, my friend?
Dave, doing well, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
No, I'm excited to have you here, right? First of all, thank you for your service. You're a veteran. I'm a veteran, but thank you for all that you've done for your country, our country, and all the people out there in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you as well. Right back at you.
Yeah. So, hey, Adam, before we hop into what you guys are doing with your platform, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we're going to have a family member on, and it could get quite embarrassing for you. But you only have a minute and a half to do it. The floor is yours. Go for it.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. Born in California, moved as a family to the East Coast to New Jersey, outside New York City. Kind of spent time both in the U.S. and in Israel, dual citizen. Both my parents are immigrants. After high school, went and served in the IDF, served in their SF Special Forces unit, kind of similar to the U.S. Green Berets, where we did a lot of cross training. After my service, came back to the U.S. to undergrad in Boston, where I studied business. Moved to New York City, where I started my career, my civilian career in the built environment. So I was working for Northeast Builders, doing high-rise mixed-use properties up and down Northeast for about 10 years. And that's kind of where the impetus of JetBuild was created, where it was started. From there, started JetBuild. More recently moved to St. Louis with my wife, where I'm calling in from right now. And more recently, as Dave pointed out, started a podcast called the Veterans Who Build Show, whose purpose is kind of to merge the roadmap for veterans into the built environment, promote life stories of veterans, and promote the industry as well. So that'll be my quick recap.
Hey, listen, I love it. You know, being a veteran myself, like I said, there is nobody in the world that understands logistics better than the government and the military. You've seen it in what you do, and you know, like you can make mountains move in a matter of hours, which is impressive. And here we are just trying to build buildings, and it seems like it can be a complete nightmare just trying to get the logistics of it pulled together. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more about JetBuild and also the Veterans Who Build. So Adam, you said that was the start of it. Walk me through what was happening when you were working on these projects. And were you just going nuts? Were you ready to pull your hair out? Like you just couldn't figure out why we do things the way we do it? Walk us through what the problem was and how you came up with this solution.
Yeah, kind of rolling off of what you just mentioned in terms of having a military background, understanding logistics, understanding, pace, schedule intensive environments, entering the built environment. What really frustrated me was the lack of a central platform to manage everything from communications to project data to deliverables, and basically understood that there had to be a better way, understood that other systems existed, whether it be in industry or out of industry. Once I dug a little bit further, I of course recognized the, generally speaking, handful of public companies that are servicing built environment for project controls, for example. The issue there was first and foremost cost. So the company I was working for, especially at that time, a decade plus back, people weren't necessarily privy to technology in the industry, and it's something we still kind of face today, generally speaking. And both because of that friction, meaning not understanding the value of tech and also not willing to pay a premium for tech, is what, left me at nothing still. And that's when I said, all right, why don't we create a better way? That's my business partner and I. We said, all right, let's do something about this issue. Let's create a central platform where we can manage everything for ourselves and our own projects. So it really started off as just a solution for our own pain points, and eventually evolved into a business.
Yeah. And how long have you guys been in operation now?
Yeah, so when we started building, like the inception of that store was back in probably 2016, 2017. We launched Jet as a business since around 2021, plus minus.
So Jet is considered, or at least talked about from what I've seen, a true end-to-end service from the inception of what the project is all the way through handing the keys over. And you're going to walk us through kind of a demonstration of the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Of what happens in a project and how this works. But there's very few end-to-end systems out there that work for everybody. So walk us through what your system does and tell us how it's a value add.
Yeah, absolutely. Should I go ahead and share my screen at this point?
Yep, sir. Right there it is.
Awesome. Cool. So what we're looking at right now is a dashboard for a specific project. This is the JetBuild platform. On the left-hand side, you'll see you can flip between your portfolio of projects. So you got portfolio views. Right now, I've selected a project, bringing us to a project-specific overview, and that's going to do exactly what it sounds like. It'll give you an overview of what's going on your project, all your deliverables across all of your functions. And what I mean by all of your functions, as we're scrolling through it, I'll kind of dive into some of these more. You saw, right, just actionables across change orders or RFIs, pay apps, again, just a little bit more of a deep dive in change orders and RFIs as an example, and a calendar with an outlook of everything that's happening and that you're involved in that month. I'm going to start with kind of the beginnings, and I'll go to accounting and budgets, as you see here on the left. So what I like to say is, right, every project's going to have a budget. It's going to have a set of drawings. It's going to have a schedule, and that'll be the driver of kind of how you continue with project process and controls. So in our budgeting tool, there's tons of functionality here. I'm just going to go through it briefly in an overview, kind of a perspective. You build out your budgets. We have lots of flexibility in terms of uploading via Excel, different types of integrations, rolling up other SOVs or other budgets into your line items. You have your backup bid room and portal for your vendors for every single one of these line items. And your budget will reflect however you'd like to build it or structure it, hard costs, soft costs, developer costs, and build it out accordingly by everything that you're seeing here, all the information you're seeing. Automated reports are going to be generated for all of these action pages that we're looking at. From budgets, you have the ability, I'm going to give you kind of front end and kind of bookending the accounting process. You have invoice management, change order management, contracts. I'll go to pay apps to, again, just bookend this process. So you saw bidding and budget creation. Once you run through that, bidding and budget process, you'll have the ability to run pay apps through Jet. I'll show you this package button, right? So it'll produce your 702, 703 format. So industry standard. I'll scroll down fast on purpose. This, again, will reflect whatever budget structure you created. On the bottom, you'll see any linked additional files that have been approved. So, for example, change orders with their associated backup files, communications.
I think it went to another tab, Adam.
Oh, you're right. It did. It did. Well, I'll just stay on this tab. Oh, you're right. Thank you for calling that out.
Yeah, no problem. Just there you go.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. So what you're looking at is the 702, 703, as I was describing without showing you. I'm going to scroll down fast on purpose. Again, all this is going to just reflect however you've structured your budget. On the bottom, you'll see any approved change orders. You select any of these any of these links, it'll bring you to the backup information. So files, approvals, communications, reallocations, contingencies, lien waivers and files, invoices, and any additional backups. I got to reshare. I'm sorry.
It's all right. So tell me, while you're pulling that back up, Adam, who all has access to this information? Is it just the general contractor, the developer, or do your trades also get access to this information to put in the RFQs and the bids and all that stuff?
Yeah. So our goal is, so I just went down to project-specific directory, and you'll see here add users. You could pull from the CRM. You could add from another project. There's lots of variables and functions here. But what you're seeing is the ability to create custom presets. You can use our presets. And the goal is for you to add literally every stakeholder from beginning and throughout the entire project all the way to closeout, so that each party can do whatever they are responsible for. So layered access controls will allow, and this is something we support our clients in terms of how they're setting up their project and controls, will allow for each team to manage what they are responsible for across the platform. So what you want those end users to see is what we'll provide them access to. Right now, we're in our drawing tool. You have the ability to overlay drawings by sheets, by revisions. It'll show you what's been deleted, what's been removed. I didn't pull up sorry, it's doing the flip into different
tabs,
yeah, which I can flip to in 1 second. Let me just pull up a better drawing.
Yeah, no problem. What is the difference between this and other programs that are out there? Because a lot of programs, have similar features. What was missing in that you decided to build this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally speaking, I think, there are other platforms that are great for specific ICPs, ideal customer profiles. What we were seeing was majority of builders, so that small, medium, up until large range. So I'm going to take out, people that are doing, I don't know, a kitchen remod, so that'll be too small, or one single family, for example, ground up at a time, too small. And then large meaning too large, I'll call it, will be, as it relates to Jet, will be, I don't know, national builders that have thousands of employees that need, very robust set of project controls. So we're kind of taking that long tail, everyone in between approach, where Jet is providing the same solution suite in a simpler format at a more cost-effective rate with better service. And the way that we're able to structure that, one is modern technology allowed us to create the full suite of solutions faster and more efficiently than legacy platforms built on legacy tech stacks. Second is we're providing that kind of family office type support to our builders. So if you're a medium or medium large type business and you're dealing with a public company, I think similar to any industry, you're going to get that public company type of support. So you're going to go through several different reps who may or may not have ever been on a job site. So our big differentiation in the support element is all of our support staff has experience in construction and development, and many of them also have experience in coding as well. So a lot of times they'll be speaking directly with someone who can address, let's say if we're missing, I don't know, a report, let's say if we're missing a nuance to a feature, or if we're missing a module in its entirety. That's how we thrive, is receiving feedback from our clients and implementing at a pace that frankly a public company just can't meet.
Understood.
So this is an example of the drawing tool. Sorry, I couldn't talk and think at the same time there. Here you have the ability to flip between your drawing sets, between your revisions. You have the ability to annotate. You have markup, the ability to by, let's see, measure. You'll set your scale. You create measurements, insert RFIs, punch list items, search within the drawings by keywords. So full robust drawing capability. Dropping down to the construction module just to show you some of those functionalities. I'll go to our submittal tool, so a driver of projects, of course. Each one of these functions, which is what I was trying to show you before, and let me switch the tab again to here. Every single one of our solutions that you saw has its backup communication portal where you can manage workflows, so responsibilities. You could communicate, add additional files, and see reports in terms of status of that action item on your project. So this will be kind of the core to how you migrate comms off of, for example, email chains, which is what we see very often with developers in particular. And that tends to be very important as it relates to, should there be something that goes wrong on your project, which frankly is naturally likely going to be a case. It happens 30-40% of the time. What are you referencing in order to resolve that issue? What are you referencing in terms of protecting your asset? So centralizing those communications and approval processes is really important. And then it's also really important to own that data accordingly. So dropping down to reporting, you just saw real quick what the submittal process looks like. I'm going to go to response rates. This is a neat solution. Going to a new tab. Where it's going to give you performance rating based on-time replies across your teams. So what that means is as you're assigning your teams for RFIs and submittals due dates, they're going to be graded essentially on how they, if they reply on time across your project actionables. Let me see if I have another quick example to show you. Just another good tool, really easy to understand, whether it be permit management or insurance management. Again, add whatever stakeholder is relevant, like an expediter, for example, your insurance teams, log that information, really easy to understand, as you're seeing here, basic information, log the expiration date. And for all of these reminders, Jet will automatically remind you before that action item expires, so that you don't have to think of these admin follow-ups, as well as scramble to find documents when they're relevant, whether it's an active project or downstream as you're managing that asset. I think lastly, I'll go down to schedules, and I could keep diving in if you have any questions. So we do full Gantt chart scheduling within Jet. You could overlay schedules. You could roll up schedules into a master schedule, for example. You can share individual schedules with a URL link. So all of our data can be shared via URL link, which simplifies, especially if you're sharing heavy files, whether it be drawings or site images, for example. You won't be limited to file size like you would otherwise on even a SharePoint, or even especially over an email.
Got it. So tell me a little bit about, all right, so this is the back end office side of it. Is this usable out in the field as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything that you're seeing works perfectly on a tablet. So a lot of our clients will have SiteSubers on tablets. They're using it exactly as you're viewing right now. If you don't have a tablet, or if you're trying to use literally your cell phone, we have a mobile app, Android and Apple, and that will kind of limit the product to site-specific operations, like, for example, punch list or daily report, because you're not going to need the robust nature of this tool on your phone.
Got it. Got it. So, it's funny. You said 2016, you guys really rolled this out, right? And you already have over 380,000 projects that have been done through JetBuild. So it's not like it's brand new.
Correct. We've run tons of projects. That's allowed us to really evolve and provide this, very robust system for our clients. Back when we started, there was, actually, I wish I knew the percent like top of my mind, but I would say, I don't know, 50% of what you're seeing. So we were really selling as more of a pointed solution at that time. And, naturally, as is the case for technology, regardless of if you're Apple or if you're, I don't know, Microsoft, there's always innovation, and there's always improvement with tech. So, we keep growing, we keep implementing. And that's really, again, like I mentioned before, driven by client feedback, which is something we really differentiate what we're doing, because we're so interactive with our clients, and because we really do implement their feedback very quickly.
Yeah. And I think that's super important, especially because technology is evolving so quick. I mean, you're probably seeing it on your side with AI and elsewhere. Are you guys using AI in any of your JetBuild product yet?
Yeah, so we started, it's a great question. So we started with, I'll call it light solutions, whether it's like AI to generate a scope of work, for example, whether it's AI to produce those overlays that I was mentioning. So you can overlay your registry against your schedule. You can overlay schedules, overlay drawings. So lots of, I'll call it AI light functionality. What we've begun working on is that Copilot, which everyone I think is familiar. So kind of like a ChatGPT-ish dynamic to Jet internal. What's funny is that we started in our initial testing so far. It's actually for whatever reason, which I think is because for whatever reason it's kind of gotten dumber the more we've used it. And I think the reason behind that is, in order for a ChatGPT-like function, a Copilot-like function to work, is you need a true amassment of data for it to pull from. So we're still growing as a company, growing in terms of our data backend for Copilot to really be smart and work with our clients.
There's so many stakeholders in a project, right? You have all the trades, you got the GC, you have the money that's maybe not the GC and not doing the scheduling, but is the one that's waiting for the end product. Your solution allows everybody to have a role in that, depending on the access level you give them, is what I'm hearing, correct?
Correct, exactly. And we have a variety of kind of visions that we're trying to do here. One is to say, that typically on any project of scale, someone on that project is going to be leveraging a legacy platform. Our goal, our vision, is to say we can offer a license access to each of these parties, each of these stakeholders, whether it's the GC, the developer, a significant trade on the project. They can own Jet as a license individually and still come in below cost from that legacy platform, that singular legacy platform. So that's to say each stakeholder can manage their backend in Jet, collaborate on the collaborative front, for that project across the stakeholders, and still can't come in under cost. And that's really our kind of long-term goal here.
Where does Jet start at, right? So does it start with the architects or the design, or does it start as soon as the architect and designers have the plan and the build is approved?
Yeah, so depending on who the client is. So for example, if it's the developer, who we like to pitch to, because what we believe is a few things. One is typically developers, not project controls, kind of holder of that asset. And what's funny about that is, to answer a question as well, is they can start creating their budgets, interacting with the lender, creating their potential schedule, adding their initial drawings, adding their files, meeting minutes, permits, insurance. So all of this like kind of back end admin work can get started on Jet before you're truly engaged with the design team, before you're even considering a GC yet. Once the GC is comes in the picture, once the design team comes in the picture, you can start bidding out GCs, you can bid out architects, and then just continue moving downstream thereafter. What we also found, which is interesting, and this is going back to kind of my experience in industry, is that if a dispute occurred on a project, it could be a trade, right? A subcontractor dispute, for example. Well, the GC is going to want to protect themselves, as they should, right? The developer will get locked out of those project controls if the developer is not the license holder, and are left with nothing to defend themselves over the project that they're paying for, over the data that they're paying for. So we found that to be kind of flipped on its head. It doesn't really make sense, kind of a backwards approach. And again, that's why we're saying, well, Jet can actually offer the GC license, the developer license, and still come in at below cost or at a minimum equal to what they're paying for a single platform
That's out there today. Right.
Correct.
So with that said, where is Jet being used now? Is it just here in the United States, Canada, Europe, or does it not matter?
Yeah, so in theory, it shouldn't matter, right? Because I think everywhere in the world is built in with a budget, with a schedule, with a set of drawings. We're really focused in North America, so the US and Canada to date. That's also just to do with where our team is, generally speaking. In terms of a more global approach, that's definitely in the horizon. That's definitely what we're looking at longer term. In order to do that, I think we'll also need to add some people on the development side, so product development side, to add languages, which is kind of it's a different approach and something that we have to think through. It's not as easy as I think one would presume, and that's kind of why we haven't dug into that angle yet, but it's something on the horizon for sure.
So one of your big claims to fame is that it saves you money. Your system can help you save money. Why is that?
Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, the easiest way to answer that is if you're using a legacy system, or if you're using multiple fractured systems to do this one centralized thing, then easy. We're going to come in, we're going to provide a price that we're comfortable with and that you're going to save in comparison to legacy platforms. Now, if you're using nothing, I would question how much time your team is taking to manage RFIs, to manage change orders, to manage bidding, budgets, payment apps, requisitions, lender draws, and then we can create a model to show how much time you can save by centralizing that information. Lastly, if you ever had a change order issue, if you ever had a dispute, then we can compare cost of Jet to protect you from dispute, to better allow you controls over the change order process and backup files, to provide ROI.
Got it. So once you start with Jet, because it's end to end, that means the entire team, from the GCs, the suppliers, the developer, the end user, all of that needs to communicate through Jet. You centralize all the communication, you centralize all the approvals, because whoever has the license to sign in and approve things is the one that approved it. So there's no more finger pointing, is what I'm hearing, right?
Absolutely correct. Everything's documented.
Got it. And then when you're actually out there getting your RFQs and everything else, for bidding and stuff, that's also centralized and actually comes right into the budget.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. As well as the bidders that you're not approving. That also remains in your back end as a data point for you to leverage on a next project, for example.
Got it. So you have all that information when you're putting it out, and you can look at the history, see where you got the bid and where it came in, and then you can find yourself somewhere shooting in the middle to get it 100, and you keep just fine tuning where you're at, right?
Exactly.
So end to end wise, again, so this is what I think is really interesting, right? So it handles everything from the plans, the approval process, all of the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of the signatures, all of the change orders, all the way through the final end of the job. How does the final end of the job look on this? Is it when the keys are turned over to the building end of the job, or does it even go further than that?
Yeah. So in terms of closing out a project, for example, we'll do punch lists and a close. We literally have a closeout module, which could connect with a variety of different solutions to ensure that you are just finalizing your project. Now, in terms of, to address your question in particular, as it relates to going further than the construction of the project, what we offer is a completed project license as well for, in particular, developers, right, who are continuing to leverage data for their asset. Or if you're a GC, we can offer the GC as like a value add. You can sell this, license, which would be a data package to your client, to the developer, so that they can, continue managing that data, their project, in the suite of Jet. So in a way that's actually usable. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you have something go wrong in your asset long term, you'll have the data to understand, okay, who installed what when, what does my warranty look like, where and when was this approved, who can I go and talk to in order to resolve this issue. So that's kind of the data concept is going to exist for long-term asset management.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely super, super important. Now I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time looking at better ways to build, not just traditional ways to build,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a manufacturer would be part of that environment, whether it is, steel walls, steel platforms, the larger buildings, that mid-tier range. A lot of them use offsite construction for their brick exterior cladding and for their floor systems and everything. How adjustable is your system to work with that? Because a lot of times the manufacturer says, hey, I'm not breaking down every stud in the wall. I'm giving you a cost per lineal foot of the wall because we're doing it on a manufacturing line. Can I adjust and have this work the way I want it to work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what we've experienced to date, Jet is flexible enough to work with whatever build type. However, if in the fact someone points out, hey, for example, on an onboarding process or even just a conversation with a potential client, if someone points out, hey, I work in XYZ manner, I don't see how this translates into Jet, that's awesome feedback, right? I don't think that we have all of the answers for every single builder, no matter the situation. We love hearing the feedback that is, hey, can you do XYZ? I don't see it right now. What we do with that kind of information is we'll say, amazing, let's work through this. Let's make sure that I understand, or whoever on my team is understands what you're saying, and we're going to give you a little time frame for implementation of that feedback.
All right, I'm a developer, or maybe I'm a general contractor. And I say, all right, I already have a system that's working, but it is, old, antedated or outdated or whatever that word is. But I can't afford to spend hours, days, weeks, months trying to implement something else, retrain my team. It's going to cause us problems. It's going to slow us up, and we're already profitable. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what I say is, I can't mask the fact that if you're changing your process, obviously there's going to be a learning curve, right? I can't pretend like there won't be. That said, if you're using a system, we leverage the knowledge that you already have in onboarding and getting trained on Jet. So taking your knowledge for using a system will expedite significantly your understanding of Jet. And what we see, which is interesting in the industry, is that with these legacy platforms, teams have been onboarding for months on end. With Jet, our average onboard time is 1 month. And that includes, right, people who have no kind of prior knowledge or existing use of systems baked into that average. So what we find really is people who have system knowledge are our best clients because they're understanding of the value prop, they're understanding how to leverage systems across their teams and projects, and then it's just a matter of setting up a few recurring training calls and they're good to go.
Got it. Got it. You talk about customer service as something above and beyond anybody else does. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the strength of being a medium-sized business, ensuring that all of our teams have knowledge of what it means to be on a job site, and therefore can actually understand how to, one, train someone on Jet, and two, hear feedback and relay that to our team for implementation. I think naturally that becomes a bigger challenge for any company in any industry as they scale, right? Is how to kind of not lose, I'll call it the value or the mission statement of that company across hundreds and thousands of employees. So by virtue of our ability to create a robust platform by leveraging modern technology, it allowed us to stay lean and close to our mission and value set for, across our employees, across our customer success team.
Yeah, and so is it 24 hours? Is it through chat? How do you guys handle kind of the call center? Because everything's an emergency in construction, even though it's not on fire and it's not, the plumbing didn't break on the 19th floor, but it always seems to always be an emergency when it comes to clients.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Like, I'll give some credit though. It's an emergency because most things are critical path things, right? Most things are domino effects. So one thing goes wrong, that's going to start messing up your schedule downstream. So for whatever it's worth, respect to that. But yeah, in terms of how we address it, is there's first of all, the reality of my answer is it's very flexible depending on the client, depending on how we come to understand their needs on a support kind of what's the word I want to use? Support package up front. So generally speaking, we'll say, okay, we got 2 months of recurring onboarding training, data migration. That's like an average package that we create. And in those 2 months, it'll be everything from, setting up their projects, setting up their teams, even presenting to key stakeholders external to them. So if you're a developer, for example, we'll help you get your GC or your architect on board. Now, the continuation of that, each client will have a rep, which is email, and within the JetBuild product, you also have a ticket. There has never been a time where we were like down, for example, as a platform, and I don't think we've ever exceeded. I'm gonna say confidently, we've never exceeded more than a day in terms of response time.
Wow, that's great. I got a question for you here from Mr. Henry Mickelberg, and he says, greetings from lovely Panama. Man, I thought you were in France. Got a question, DC. The more efficiency tenant goals you can embed into a project, the better the outcome. Tricky to do unless you're the client and GC, because you've got to instigate a metric-based methodology into those tenant goals. How do you get the GCs and subs to contractually agree to using your methodology? Great question, Henry. I'm sure Adam has an answer.
Yeah, it's a really great question. This is something we deal with very frequently. So I would say, first of all, in a way, you answered one methodology in your question, which is to say you add your system, JetBuild, for example, in a contract. So if you're bidding out, if you're going to award a trade, a GC, that contract, you say, okay, this is our system that we're using. Generally speaking, GCs in particular are used to using a system, so they should understand that logic. That said, if they do have friction with that, and if you don't care to, for example, mandate it top down, which is something we recommend for a handful of reasons, nonetheless, if you're not able to do that, what we offer is integrations with other platforms, one of them being Procore, for example, where if the GC is managing, of course, the construction operations, our integration will allow for that data to just automatically push into your JetBuild ecosystem, your interface, so that you can, like I mentioned earlier on, right, own that data and protect your asset accordingly, so you won't get locked out if something occurs. And then you can, have them upload their financial information, for example, into the Jet system, which wouldn't be out of the ordinary for how dynamics work. And I think that would create a reasonable dynamic, allowing them to use their, construction op system. They would use your accounting operation system, i.e. JET.
Appreciate the question, Henry. Thank you very much. Hope you're getting some sunscreen on if you're down in Panama. I bet it's hot down there. All right. Hey, listen, did you finish with your presentation deck there, Adam? I know I kind of took it off screen back there, and you had some stats and numbers and percentages here. So just wanted to make sure we got through everything you wanted to get through before we wrap up the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's really tons to dive through. I did a real quick overview. What we're looking at now, for example, let's just say an example portfolio overview, right? So that's going to do what it sounds like. It's rolling up data across your projects into one dashboard. But like to really dive into JET, what we typically do, we'll understand what whoever I'm talking to, we're talking to, what their priorities are, and dive into solutions accordingly. Because to go through the platform in its entirety would probably easily take an hour, if not more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. And we can always do that down the road too,
Sure.
Well, Adam, I really appreciate you joining us today. And I always ask everybody, is there something that I left out? Is there what is it that we didn't talk about that you think super important for the people that are watching this to know, either about the program, about you personally, about your team, whatever the case may be? The floor is yours.
Yeah, what I always like to say is what we recognize, and again, we were in your shoes, for example, right? So what we recognize is that a lot of, typically, generally speaking, companies in our industry don't have a dedicated team for tech, for implementation of systems, for someone to sit over project controls as their kind of role in your company. So we completely understand that, and that's exactly why we kind of went back to the basics with what we built with JET, and simplified everything, again, from bid management to the RFI and submittal process, and made it as easy as possible to implement for your team, for your projects. And our guys do a great job in terms of that onboarding and training process over time, according to what you need to, what you need, what your teams need, and scale with you accordingly. So again, we totally understand that you don't have the wherewithal to deal with migrating or adopting technologies, and that's why we're really hands-on in that process up front.
Love it, man. Love it. Adam, come on, let's plug the podcast a little bit here. Let's give the vets some props. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the podcast started from reflecting on my own journey, and the impetus to realizing that it's something that I really was intrigued by and want to do was actually listening to other veterans on other podcasts. So hearing other veteran stories, I realized a few things. One is how helpful it was to hear what they went through, what they're going through, and how that applied to me and my story, and how it could help me, get through whether that be transition period dynamics, whether that be, just hindsight issues that every veteran kind of continues to work through throughout life. I matched that with reflecting on my journey into the built environment and how it was, I think, as relatable as possible for a civilian industry. I bunched those two concepts together, which is the personal aspect of how veterans can help veterans simply by sharing their story, and two, how veterans are making a difference in the built environment, and how that's a great industry for veterans to get involved in. Added those two together, and that's how we got the Veterans Who Build show, which, as you pointed out, its purpose is kind of to create this roadmap, highlight veteran stories, promote industry and veterans in particular in industry.
Adam, man, appreciate you being on the show, and I'm going to put it out there. If you're a veteran and you're listening to this and you have a story to tell, I'm sure Adam would love to hear from you. So if you're in this industry and you're a vet, hey, man, get on a show. Let's talk about it, because there's a lot of vets that struggle to make the transition, but then there's a lot of vets that have been very successful at it and could help you out too. So it's a good place to go and a good place to learn. And it's a good place to keep your mind straight as well. So Adam, Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Hey, for the rest of you out there, listen, we can't do any of this without our supporting members. We'd love to have you part of our team. We'd love to include you in our executive events that we do throughout the United States and around the world, so you can hang with other leaders in the industry and you can meet new leaders and people that are doing things differently, like Adam and others. They are invite only. Join the club, man. Have fun. We're having a great time, and people are doing a lot of business together, which is what it is all about. So with that said, just DM us if you're interested in being part of that. And for the rest of you out there, guess what? It's Wednesday. Still got 2.5 days to keep building it better. That's right. Hey, listen, I'm Dave Cooper. This was a great show. We'll see you next week. We got some shows coming up, but I'm going to be in Turkey. That's right. Going to see our good friends at Dorche. Can you imagine 300 to 400 modules a day being built? Think about that one for a minute if you're in the offsite community. 300 to 400 a day. Hey, stay tuned. We're going to be bringing you all the great action from wherever we are in the world. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.